In this video, we're going to return to sculpting in the head and the neck region to finish up just prior to moving on to the retopology stage of this project. Went back to using the build brush, the first brush draw mode, as well as a sharper brush alpha to work with very fine or very thin lines in this gill region. Go to my brush options panel and turn spacing on and reduce it down to about 5%, so it's rather smooth. And in order to keep this video as brief as possible, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the playback, except for where there are times where I have to make adjustments to a brush or something of that sort. I'm going to reduce the fall off down to about 35%. Do a little bit of smoothing. Just trying to use the build brush to inflate the outer portions of each slit here in the gills. A couple different tools I could use for this. The expand brush is basically the same as inflate. You also have inflate clay, and I might use the grow brush as well. I'm going to switch to the move brush. Just tweak the proportions of this chin region. Now I use the scrape brush to do, as the name implies, just do a little bit of scraping. So add a little bit of random roughness to it. Switch back to the move brush. Go back to the build brush. Turn on steady stroke to work in the gum and lip area. And hold down the control key. I'm also going to turn spacing back on and reduce it down to about 5%. Switch to a regular brush alpha. kind of a soft fall off. Switch to the pinch brush. Turn steady stroke off. Go back to a grow brush in regular draw mode, probably the second one. It's a little bit too thin. I'll just continue using different brush alphas and also the brush draw modes to kind of modulate the thickness of the brush, even when I'm using the very same tool or brush. Just going to try to build out the gum area around this front tooth. Go back to the grow brush, my standard brush alpha. It's a much softer build. Hold down the shift key to smooth a bit. Go ahead and save while I'm at it. Now unhide the rear eyes. And I'm trying to create a symmetrical copy from one side to the other, so I'm turning symmetry back on. And I'm going to just lightly tap on one side and then click the Sim Copy button, and that didn't work, so I undid it. And I right clicked on the layer to click Global Space, and that usually will reset an object. And then I tried the Sim Copy again, and it worked. So every once in a while, a particular object in the scene might be off just a bit from its orientation in 3D space. So that right clicking and Global Space option will usually set it correctly. I'll go back to the head and neck layer. Choose the build brush. Just going to try and refine this cheek area. I'm going to turn steady stroke on and try and create a nice crease here above the eyelid. Just holding down the control key to invert. Switch to the gill brush so it's a little bit smoother. Undo a few times. I'll turn steady stroke off for a little while. I'm going to hit the S key to bring up the Symmetry panel and just hide the plane. I don't want to turn it off, I just want to hide that plane so it's not obscuring my view. Switch to an absolute brush draw mode. Then hold down the shift key to smooth in this area underneath the jawline. Just going to try and sculpt out gullet area. I'll switch to the move tool, kind of pull that crease area out just a bit. Go back to the build brush. Cache that layer in order to get just a little bit better performance when I'm making larger sweeping changes. Don't necessarily have to do that, but you can notice a tangible difference. Hold down the shift key just to smooth this area quite a bit. I'm going to uncache it again. Start unhiding some of these individual layers and objects. And this layer, I'll just delete that one, it's an empty one. Just continue to unhide and uncache some of these layers because we're getting ready to start our retopo process. I could just use live clay to do a lot of really high frequency level sculpting here in the Sculpt workspace. However, that type of task or work can actually be done inside the Paint workspace very efficiently using image-based sculpting, such as your normal maps and your displacement maps. Because as you're painting, 3D Coat provides live normal map and displacement map relief. So Then you can use the paint layers in exactly the same way you would in Photoshop, but again, it allows you to sculpt with depth information in the same way you would use different layers and masking and opacity blending and all of those tools you're used to in Photoshop. We can leverage those in the Paint workspace. So that's what I'm going to try. But if I decide that I would rather go back and do some additional sculpting work here in the Sculpting workspace, I can do that as well. I can just simply bake out an additional normal map or a displacement map and bring that into the Paint workspace in conjunction or in addition to what I already have. So it's pretty flexible in that regard. And right now I'm just trying to pick out individual shaders for this voxel object or for these individual objects here in the Sculpt workspace, so that when we bake everything down to our low polygon retopo mesh, we'll have a nice base of color and maybe specularity to start with. Okay, so as I do this, I just want to mention we're going to pick up in the next video starting our retopology process. So stay tuned and we'll see you in the next video.